Good morning. We hope you're well. I'm going to run through what's coming up in the programme in a few minutes. But first, I'm going to go straight to Dr. Geoff Plant because I know he's a busy bookle. Good morning, Dr. Plant.
Good morning, Damien, and good morning to your listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us. Our text number 083 333 975, text or WhatsApp. The reason we have you on the programme first this morning, Geoff, and we had you on earlier in the week, but the reason we had you on this morning is that last night a circular and email went out to every GP in the country about the new testing criteria regarding COVID. Maybe you don't want to say too much about this, but tell us what is or what have you been told, please?
Okay, just a couple of clarification points. It hasn't actually officially gone on the HPSC website until this morning, but I think a couple of the WhatsApp groups, GP WhatsApp groups and different groups got hold of it last night. So we've been, if we rewind back to the beginning of all this and when they rolled out the testing at the beginning, I think your listeners might remember that it was a very wide criteria. So anyone, even with a sniffle nose or a cough, was officially be allowed to be tested. Unfortunately, that was a big I don't know why they did it, but after 2 or 3 days of that, they realised that the system was overwhelmed and they reversed it back to a much stricter criteria for people getting tested. So this is people who fit in a criteria to be tested for COVID-19. So for the last, I'd say about 3 or 4 weeks, it's been a fairly strict criteria. It was quite difficult to get tested, to fit into the categories to get tested. So I think in the meantime, reading between the lines, they have now ramped up their capacity, well, certainly according to media reports, and they can now do more testing. So now they're broadening it a little bit again, so it's not quite as strict. Before I just get into a couple of details of who should and who shouldn't be tested, I think it's really important to emphasise this. If you feel unwell and you are sick, you ring your GP and get advice. And the GP will advise you from there about what you should do in terms of looking after yourself, most importantly, and how to treat yourself. And number 2, if you fall into the new category for testing, he or she will chat with you about that and book the test. So I think I'll get into the details now in a minute, Damien, but that's a very important thing. Rather than everyone knowing exactly, it's not up to individual people to know the criteria for who fits the testing and who doesn't fit the testing. What is important is you obey all the current rules that are in place. If you do feel unwell with a cough, cold or fever, you officially need to ring your GP, and as is still the case, you must self-isolate for 2 weeks.
I understand that. So are you being told this, that's the way you should handle this, Geoff, in the sense that that's a subtle sort of distinction in terms of how the criteria are relayed to the general public. So are you suggesting that there may be hypochondriacs out there that might think they should go for a test even though they don't really need a test?
Well, we just need to be careful. Look, in everything in medicine, Damien, the vast majority of people, just like society at the moment, the vast majority of people aren't hypochondriacs. The vast majority of people are well behaved and do things properly. There were, I think, a small minority of people, and it was a small minority, and I can't prove this or anything, who were ringing up when the criteria broadened, who just said, I've got a fever and I want to be tested, and they fitted the criteria. Perhaps they were listening to the radio. Now, there was a small amount. I trust most people, but I know some people were ringing 5-6 times with what we would consider minor enough illnesses and looking for the test. Now, there's a lot of factors in that, Damien. There's a lot of people who are very, very scared at the moment, completely understandably, and they're dying. They want to get the test done. So I can certainly sympathise with people for, I won't use being hypochondriac, but really eager to get the test done and happy to go to do anything to try and get that test done.
Yes. And I asked that question in the context of how this information is going to be relayed, obviously, and you know where I'm coming from with that. I'm not suggesting that people...
I do. And I think that's why I wanted to emphasise at the beginning of
yes.
this. Rather than am I in the category... Rather when you're ringing your GP to say, am I in the category for testing or not, ring your GP if you're unwell and you need advice about what to do next. That's key. And please, that's what I want everyone to understand. But going back to today,
briefly,
what changed on the testing criteria. So if someone was to ring us now today compared to yesterday, if you are a patient who has an acute illness, respiratory illness, so that's a cough, cold, fever, shortness of breath, and it's of sudden onset, and this is important, sudden onset.
Okay.
So we have a lot of people, certainly when the criteria was very broad, who had coughs for the last 3 weeks or coughs for the last 6 weeks. So it's sudden onset of at least one of the following: cough, fever, or shortness of breath. You should ring your GP, okay? Now, well, anyone, if you have any symptoms, you should ring your GP, but these are the ones who might fit into the category for testing. In addition, they need to have no other explanation for that cough or cold or fever. So that's why the phone call to the GP is very, very important. It's very difficult for individual patients or people in the population to know, the delicacies of the different illnesses and the different symptoms, and that's up to us. That's what we are there to provide and give advice on. So I repeat that. If you have a sudden onset of at least one of the following: cough, fever, or shortness of breath. So shortness of breath ongoing I've had a few people ringing, and it's quite interesting. We're getting a couple of people ringing. They've been short of breath for 6 months now or 3 months. So they won't fall into the category, obviously. Now, I've actually asked for some of them people to come in, those patients to come in. And
yes.
It's actually interesting to bring up, well, you shouldn't be short of breath. Let's come in to me and find out why. Are you asthmatic, or is there another reason? Okay. There's one other category that may fit into testing. If you have any acute respiratory illness. So again, respiratory illness is cough, cold, fever, snotty nose, sore throat, and you have been in close contact with a COVID case, a defined COVID case, or a very likely COVID case in the last 14 days, then you may fit into the category for testing. Okay.
That's
and
very
close
specific,
contact, again, I think I've said it on your show a few times, is contact of more than 15 minutes at less than 2 metres.
Yes.
I repeat that. Close contact is more than 15 minutes with someone and less than 2 metres.
Okay, that's very specific. Can I just ask a very simple question? John phoned in to 051846123. Are all GPs equipped to take calls, and is there a charge? There were charges originally at the start. Is there a charge still at present, or has that gone away?
Okay, actually, I would need to clarify that. So at the beginning of this, Damien, the government were covering phone calls.
Yes.
If it's a COVID-related phone call now, this is a COVID-related instance. They covered a number of payments on using a PPS number. So you may be asked for your PPS number. If you don't have a medical card, you may be asked for a PPS number. Now, they only were able to take, I think they would pay the GP a very small amount of money now, for I think it's 2 phone calls. So some of these people have been ringing 6 or 7 times. So I don't want to speak because obviously you can't set prices for exactly every GP, and that's against the competition authority. But I'm not quite sure, and I might get back to you next week on that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. But
whether the new, because they're changing their criteria, whether they'll now cover another 2 calls, I'm not sure. But I think it's important to know. I remember hearing someone right at the beginning of this ringing in. A lot of GPs are dealing with stuff over the phone. I think we're dealing with maybe about 50% of stuff over the phone now, maybe a bit more. And if you don't have a medical card, now I'm not talking about COVID-related stuff. Now sometimes it's COVID-related stuff, but a lot of time it's other medical stuff. Yes, unfortunately, if you don't have a medical card, there is a charge. Each GP charges a small, a different amount. So I don't want to get into our one is €40, and that's it. But I mean, you're getting 10 minutes of the GP's time, maybe more. You're getting good advice, and if the patient needs to come in, well, then that's a different. That turns into a face-to-face consultation. So I know there was a lot of discomfort at the beginning about charging for phone calls, but GPs are giving their time and they're what we're qualified to do. So it is a fact of life that there is if you rang a solicitor or an accountant or something else and you got 15 minutes at times, I'm sure there'll be a charge as well.
And that's it. Dr. Plant, thanks for joining us this morning. Mind yourself, Geoff.
No problem, Damien. Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you. And to all GPs and to all the staff in GPs' offices, to Helen and everybody up in Helen Connolly's, special hello this morning, and take care and mind yourselves. I know you're at the front line as well. Can you please give a mention to my sister Mary Cummins, a big 80 today. There are 5 sisters in in the family. 4 of us celebrate birthdays in 1 week. Mary is April 28th, Barbara April 29th, Olive May 1st, Nellie R.I.P. May 5th. Nellie passed away on May the 6th, 2000, so our 20th anniversary this year. We were hoping to get together, says Olive, one of these days, but I'm sure we won't do it at the minute, but we will at some stage. In the same week as my sisters on one side, my son Alan, 7th of May on the other side. So it'll be definitely one big party when all this is over. That's in from Olive Ruan. A number of other people texted to wish Mary Cummins happy birthday. Happy birthday to Johnny Gum Kennedy in Cannon Street. Great day, lots of love. Tina, Paul, Gary, John, grandchildren, Jess, Austin, Jamie, Dawn, Darren, Jack, Eva, Maya, great grandchildren, Alfie, Willow, Bobby. See you soon. Lots of hugs and kisses. I put a thing up on Facebook the other day. Dungarvan people go up to Cork and down to Waterford. What do Waterford City people do? Sharon in Kilmac said, I'm in Kilmac. I always say up to Dungarvan and into Waterford. Another person, down to Wexford, up the Yellow Bellies. Down to Dungarvan and Cork. We do nothing, says Vicky. We're in lockdown. Down to both, says Damien, from Rathgormack. We go back to Dungarvan, up to Clonmel, into Carrick, down to Waterford and Kilkenny, and up to Cork, down to Kerry. Got some good fun on that. So if you want to text us in, please, 083 3333 975. Text or WhatsApp, or you can call Audrey on 051 846 123. The Irish Independent this morning is reporting that the national lockdown could well be extended for another 2 weeks for the vast majority of people when the quarantine period ends after the bank holiday weekend. Government's going to announce an extension on Friday, also outlining a roadmap for lifting social distancing restrictions. And the indications at this stage, reports Kevin Doyle, the only easing of working restrictions for May the 5th being considered are those who work outdoors, such as construction workers and gardeners. And here's an important one, which may well come out if the story proves to be 100% true. Over 70s who've been asked to cocoon will be told they can exercise once a day as long as they take social distancing precautions. So we're probably going to know later in the week on Friday what is the situation is on that. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to be talking to Nicola and Cathal regarding the soldiers stuck in the Lebanon. Keep your texts and comments coming in, 083 3333 975. I'm going to take some of your texts and comments in a few minutes, but I want to go straight to Nicola. Good morning, Nicola.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. I'm okay. Nicola Flynn, you're just outside of Waterford and you're due to get married in September. I know we're not going to just mention your fiancé's name, just for, I suppose, the way things are. He's a soldier in the Lebanon at present, and we don't want to be identifying him directly as such, but we're going to be talking to Cathal Berry, TD, in a minute, a former Army Ranger. Tell me about your engagement. When did you get engaged?
We got engaged in November in 2018, so for 2 years nearly. So.
And where are you due to get married?
In Waterford.
Okay, one of the hotels, is it? Or
Yeah, in the tower, yeah.
Okay, a big day planned. Have you many due to attend?
It's looking about kind of one.
I'm very, very sorry there with that. I think we just lost Nicola for a second. We'll come back to Nicola in a second. I think we've got Cathal Berry on the line there now. Cathal, are you there?
I am indeed, Damien. Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners.
Good morning. Listen, it's good to talk to you, Cathal. We'll come back to Nicola in a second. A digital error, as they say. Cathal Berry, TD. You're a TD up in Kildare. You're a former Army Ranger. You have Waterford connections as well. Tell us about them, please, do you?
I do indeed, yeah. Very strong Waterford connections. Basically, I grew up in Ballyduff Upper in West Waterford, and I left the village at the tender age of 18 to join the military in the Curragh, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. Congratulations on your elevation to Teachtadála. We had Minister Paul Kehoe on yesterday, and we've been doing more about this story in a minute. So stay with us for a second, Cathal, because I think we have Nicola back on the line there now, and I want to just hear Nicola's story, the personal story first. Nicola, sorry about that, a digital error.
You're okay.
How many people are you due to have at the wedding in September in Waterford?
About 170.
170.
Yeah.
And not only do you have the uncertainty of what's happening, is the wedding still booked in?
It's still booked in, yeah. We're kind of just waiting to hear what the government announces and that on the 5th of May, but to be honest, it's hard to know the way things are going to go. It's just so uncertain, like. Nobody knows what's going to happen, like.
They don't. And Cathal Berry is on the other line, the TD, who's going to talk about the United Nations situation in a second. But I want your personal angst and worry about the wedding is one thing, but the next thing is that your fiancé is a soldier in the infantry battalion currently serving in the Lebanon. Is that right?
He is, yeah. He's a private over there, yeah.
And when did he go?
He went last November, start of November. So he's gone now quite a while. He was gone for Christmas and stuff, so it was hard.
And how long have you been going out with him before you got engaged in 2018?
There's a question.
A few years.
5 years. 5 years.
Right.
Going out before we got engaged. Yeah.
And he's you know that he's a soldier. You know that he's going to be away for. And how's it been when he's away?
Yeah, this is his second trip, and we understand it's part of the job, and obviously we're very proud of the lads and the women over there for what they're doing in that. Obviously the first time he went was hard, but I was able to go out to work, I was able to go meet up with friends and family, and now this time it's just 10 times harder, because you can't go anywhere, you can't see anyone. I'm not in work, so it's just kind of sitting at home worrying about his situation and the wedding, and it's all a lot, really, to be honest.
It is really disconcerting. And you heard Minister Paul Kehoe, you heard me interviewing him yesterday, and I know you're very upset about it all, because effectively your fiancé was due to be back in 2 weeks' time, and now because of this rotation issue that the United Nations are talking about, you don't know when he's going to be home.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I just don't. I was a bit disappointed with the minister's response yesterday, because he kind of went on about all the other countries and troops that are away from families, and all the families here and that understand that, and we sympathise with them because we're in the same boat. But we just feel our concern is for our lads and our women overseas at the moment and getting them home, and I just feel that that's what should be the minister's priority as well, is his own troops and his own country and that. And
there is a possibility he mightn't be home until June, the end of June, and even at that, it may well be extended. How does this make you feel?
Yeah, it's pretty devastating, to be honest, and I'm angry about it, but I'm more upset in that as well, because all the other rotations have happened, and I just feel if all of them happened, why can't our lads come home? Obviously they'd follow the quarantine and self-isolation and all that. That's a given. But in such unprecedented times, a lot of lads and women have young kids, they have elderly family members, they might have family members with underlying conditions, and the stress and worry on them as well about us over here must be awful. So it's just important to get them home and let them be with their loved ones.
Yeah, and we spoke to Mairead and different people as well, wives and with children and stuff. Cathal, when you hear Nicola's story, and you've heard so many stories over the last few weeks about this, what would you have to say to Nicola? Is there anything you can say to her that will bring her any kind of solace?
Well, not really. I should say good morning to Nicola first of all, but other than that, I completely empathise and sympathise with her situation. I think, yes, there is a backdrop of a global pandemic going on here, but I think it could have been handled much more differently and to a much more higher standard. I think there was a lot of issues and a lot of factors within the government's control that could have been used and haven't been used, unfortunately. I think we dropped the ball on this one.
Okay, so explain to me, give me a few very specific, give me 2 or 3 things that you think the government should have done that they haven't done.
Okay, I'll just give you 3 things, Damien, if you like. First of all, I would say there was a failure to act when advance notice of this letter on the 4th of April would have been available. So we do have a permanent mission in New York. We have an ambassador and we have an army colonel sitting there in the Department of Peacekeeping Operations. They would have got a few days' notice basically before this letter would have come out. And that was our opportunity. That was our window of opportunity to move a few small numbers of people from Lebanon back home. And these would have been repatriated on compassionate grounds, like Nicola's fiancé, or like people who have a first-degree relative working in the health sector, need to be home to look after the kids, or people who have COVID-positive parents in nursing home settings at the moment. So that's something that should have been done, really. So basically, they failed to act on the advance notice that would have been available. And secondly, then... Yeah,
just on that, the government would say, and Minister Paul Kehoe said that they have been acting. So you would dispute what the government has said?
Well, I would say that if they have been acting, then where is the act? I mean, an act is to withdraw maybe 20 or 30 people from the battalion overseas on compassionate grounds and bring them home. That hasn't happened, so I'm not sure what act he's referring to. The second issue I would raise is it took an inexcusable delay of 17 days for Ireland to respond to the UN Secretary General's letter. Now, a 17-day delay, I mean, that's completely unacceptable. Normally, a letter like that of such importance, a 17-hour turnaround is what should be expected, not a 17-day delay. And that really weakens and undermines our negotiating position in relation to getting our troops home. And thirdly, I would say that the communications in relation to this has been nothing short of shambolic. It is completely unacceptable for soldiers, families and soldiers themselves to be reading in the national media issues of great concern to themselves, and they haven't been told through the chain of command, from the chain of command, and they read it in a newspaper the following morning. That's completely unacceptable. So there are the three reasons.
Yeah, well, on the third point, I spoke to a number of soldiers in the Lebanon over the last week, and they would concur with what you're saying, is that the commanders within certain areas may have information, but it hasn't been passed down to the personnel on the ground as they would see fit. On that second point, is there any particular reason? Have you tried to find out through freedom of information or a question to the Minister for Defence why this 17-day delay, as you call it?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no point in putting in a freedom of information request because I already know the answer, and the answer is political paralysis. That's it. I mean, it's the same recurring theme that's been going on for a number of years now. It's the same issue with the pain conditions. It's the same problem that hasn't been resolved because there's just procrastination and there's lack of decision making. And 17 hours is more than enough to reply to a letter of such importance. 17 days is inexcusable. So,
I'll come back to you in a second, Nicola. Do you think the Minister should consider his position, Cathal Berry?
I think my views on the current minister are well known at this stage. There's no point in rehashing old ground. One thing I would say is in a number of weeks there's going to be a cabinet reshuffle in about 3 or 4 weeks' time, and most likely we will have a new minister at that stage. So I think that's the appropriate point in time to be discussing that.
Well, do you think the minister should resign?
As I said, there's probably no point now. There's only 3 or 4 weeks left, and he's been there for 9 years, and we should get a new minister in 3 to 4 weeks' time, and that's the appropriate mechanism to employ.
That implies that you would like to see him gone.
I think if you look at the situation in relation to the Lebanon troops at the moment, I think a change is long overdue, and we very much look forward to a new government being formed and a new minister being in place in 3 to 4 weeks' time. And I'm happy to wait those 3 to 4 weeks, basically. We've been waiting 9 years, so another 3 or 4 weeks won't kill us.
And one final question, Cathal Berry. Do you think anything can be done? The government says this is the United Nations that's doing that they're doing all they can. What have you got to say to Nicola? Will her fiancé be home in June, do you think?
I don't think they'll be moving in 2 weeks' time. I very much doubt that. I think it won't be great news, and the reason I know it won't be great news is because there's been such a hiatus of information. There's such a lack of information. The reason being is it's not good information to be passing on, so nobody really wants to do it. I suspect all our troops will be home in June, by late June, but unfortunately there's a bit of uncertainty because they're going to be 5 or 6 weeks late, most likely. So that's how I see things playing out. I would say, though, there is grounds to look for an exemption to the United Nations, and if they say yes or no, we can still move our troops because it's a sovereign decision, basically, when national troops move around. And there is grounds to look at it from a compassionate perspective. If there are 10, 20 or 30 personnel out there who need to get home for specific reasons, as I said, if their parents are ill, or if their kids are ill, or if they have a first-degree relative working in the health sector, then there is grounds to move a small number of people and not replace them, basically.
Yeah, I suppose from Nicola's point of view, Cathal, planning for a wedding would not be compassionate grounds. If the wedding was due to take place in a couple of weeks, that would be maybe a reason. But I doubt if Nicola and her particular case, what would you have to say to her?
Well, I would say if the wedding is in September, I'm not sure what actual date is in September, I'd say she's safe enough from a September point of view. He may not be home for the planning phase, but I suspect he'll be home for the main event itself.
Just stay on the line for a second, Cathal. Nicola, what do you have to think when you hear of what Cathal's been saying there?
Well, to be honest, it's disappointing because, I understand that, people's partners who work in the front line and that, obviously they might be needed at home, but like, you know, everyone, all the lads and women have families over there. They all have boyfriends, girlfriends, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, grandparents. Like, they all need to be home. Like, how can you pick a couple of people that, you know, you say deserve to be home, like, when they all deserve to be home? They've done their 6 months trip. They've served, you know, their time over there or whatever. They all deserve to come home. Like, I don't accept that, to be honest. I don't think it's fair. I
think you're right, Nicola. I think they do deserve to be home. Cathal, do you think they deserve to be home?
Absolutely, 100%. I've consistently said that for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been mentioned all. Bring our troops and bring them home, and let them get on with the rest of their lives and look after their families at home.
Cathal Berry, thanks very much for joining us. Mind yourself. Nicola Flynn, take care, and we'll get in touch with you now in the next few weeks and see if there's any developments. Is that okay?
Thank you very much, Damien.
Thanks, Nicola. Thanks, Damien.
Thanks, Cathal. God bless. Take care. Nicola, mind yourself. Take care, both of you, and hope you're well. What do you think? Send us in your text, please. 083 333 975. It's an awful difficult story, isn't it? Really, really difficult story. Let us know what you think. Now, keep your texts and comments coming in. A woman who texted us the other day, and we had her on the programme at the end of the programme yesterday, was Lily from Bettystown. Lily, good morning.
Hiya, Damien.
How are you getting on?
News?
Good, yeah. No,
waiting.
I don't have. We tried to find. You were looking for Tina. Just explain to our listeners again. Explain to our listeners who was Tina and why did you want to talk to Tina?
Well, I met Tina on a holiday in Lanzarote. We were there on the 4th of July, or the 4th of March till the 7 days. And I met Tina there, and she had her son with her called Dylan. He had a beard, and like, she tried ringing me when we got back home, and we just kind of hit it off. And I'm so trying to find her, and I just knew she came from Waterford, and she's a technician somewhere, I don't know, but she had a son with her. He had a beard, Dylan. She had a daughter with her. I'm sure she said she worked with disability people. They had to go to Tyrone.
Yeah.
She was with her husband, only married down there in Waterford in September. But I just so much want to find her, just to keep in touch, you know.
Well, as they say, holy God Miley. Tina, say hello to Lily.
Hello, Lily.
Who's that?
That's Tina.
Oh,
they found me for you.
Oh, God, I'm so happy.
It's great to hear your voice.
Oh, Tina. Oh, I'm so
How are you
happy.
keeping?
Oh, I'm okay, and I'm really making me day there with the radio there. I can't. I can't believe it. Because I said she probably thought I was full of shit talking over me over there on holiday, you know.
No cursing now. No cursing now, girls. You can curse when you're off air now in a few minutes.
You haven't heard me curse yet.
Lily, we got a great response yesterday, and we're delighted to help. And Tina, when you heard that Lily was looking for you, you tried ringing her, and you did ring her one day. Unfortunately, Lily was a little bit inebriated. I think the drink was a bit strong, and she lost the number or something, was it?
What happened was when we arrived back in the airport, we were put into isolation straight away for 2 weeks. And my phone was playing up on me, and I lost a few people's phone numbers, and Lily's was one of them. So I had no way of contacting Lily, even up until now. Like,
for God's sake, isn't this just great, isn't it?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
We won't lose the phone numbers again, Lily. Okay, and we'll stay in touch, definitely.
Oh, definitely, Tina. How's my boyfriend?
Oh, your boyfriend is fine. He's heartbroken over you.
Lovely chap, great fun, great everything.
Do you know what it does as well? It just conjures up a lovely image because of all this crap that's going on at the minute with the COVID. This lovely image of when people are on holidays and you meet somebody you've never met before and you just really hit it off. Tina, how did you hit it off with Lily? You just got on like two houses on fire, did you?
We just got on really well, and we had great chats. And on Lily's last day with her daughter, they were waiting to go to the airport, and she spent that whole evening, the whole afternoon there beside that pool with us while she was waiting to go. So we had a great chat, you know.
Yeah.
She's a lovely woman, a lovely woman.
Yes, like yourself. Why do you think I go to this length to find you? I wouldn't do this for any man.
Lily.
And Tina, you're working out on is it the airport, the industrial estate out there?
Yes, I'm working in JHG Analytical Services. It's a testing lab, and I work part-time out here, yeah.
Okay. So listen, what we'll do is when we're off air, we'll give both of you your numbers to each other, and you can keep in touch. And you never know, it could be a lifelong friendship.
Yeah,
hopefully it will be.
Was she surprised, Amy, when someone approached her? Did you hear herself?
I was very surprised. Lily. It was my brother rang me and said, "There's a woman looking for you on the radio." And then I started getting phone calls from friends saying, "There's somebody looking for you on the radio." I was panicking, Lily. You freaked me out.
Well,
great, isn't it?
Margaret from Tremore has texted in. You remember Cilla Black? She used to have this programme called Surprise, Surprise. Damon, you're turning into Cilla Black. Do you remember that, ladies?
That's right, I do.
So we'll definitely meet when this thing passes, Tina.
We will meet up, Lily.
And
we
tell
will
them all
definitely.
I was asking for them, yeah?
I will, and your daughters as well. Tell them the same.
Yeah, she's here listening, yeah. Oh, thanks
Okay.
very, very much.
Lovely.
Thank
Listen,
you.
Tina and Lily, we'll talk to you soon. Listen, mind yourself, ladies, and happy friendship, okay?
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Damien.
Bye.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Lily and Tina there. Lily from Waterford, reunited with Lily from Bettystown. Tina Cleary from Waterford and Lily from Bettystown. Anyway, it's nice to be able to do something good, and we hope they have a long and happy friendship. And it'll be obviously a social distance friendship in the minute, but I can imagine when they ever do get together, they'll have a few little Porta del Carmen memories. Now, I want to give a mention as well to our SE2 promo. This is the idea of a hero in the front line, in the community. Hero in the community. SE2 are sponsoring this. It's not a competition. You can text the word hero, the name of the person you want to nominate as your hero in the community, and why. Text it into 083 333 975. You can go on the website, wrfm.com. Or if you don't have a phone, we'll allow you, just for this morning, to give Audrey a ring on 051846 123. Mary's texted in to say, my brother Richie Walsh celebrating a big birthday today. Another texter, I'm a resident of Collins Avenue in Waterford. I walk around the estate and the amount of particularly teenage girls in large groups is ridiculous. The amount of young children on bikes, scooters, skateboards is disgraceful. The reason for all the schools closing is for safety precautions. Can you please, in big letters, ask the parents of this estate to keep their children indoors or bring them for a walk? Thank you very much. Lebanon is in lockdown and no one being out in or out of camp in the last few weeks. They are so basically quarantined. The communication has been shocking. It has been in the Irish Times before my partner. The minister didn't sound very convincing yesterday. He needs to act. They will be there until the end of June. They could be there even longer, says this texter. I think the Irish government needs to take ownership of this and stop blaming the United Nations for shortcomings. Another texter saying, I have been told that the soldiers who are due to go out in May have been told that they're not going to go out until maybe June, possibly July. And that's from Paul. We don't know that, Paul. Again, the Minister has said a decision hasn't been made yet. Other people texting in about other matters in the public domain. First, I'm going to go straight to Paul Welch because Paul is a busy man this morning. He runs the Waterford Foot Clinic and a chiropodist. And it looks like some chiropodist, he could be the first one in Waterford. I don't know, he could even be the first one in the southeast back in business this morning. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. You're back at work. Tell us about what's it been like for the past. When did you close down?
Oh, sure. Look, we closed. We closed down after the Taoiseach said it on the telly tonight that we took the 2 weeks off and we let Rebecca go and we closed up completely for those 2 weeks. And we had a lot of phone calls still. We had the phone diverted to home, but we just had to tell people we were closed under restrictions.
In terms of your clients and people that would go to you, like you've established a very loyal customer base over the years, haven't you?
We have, luckily enough, thanks, Damien. But like most people who were ringing knew, like if we told them it was not essential, we were just saying, look, we'll try and hold off for another couple of weeks and we see how we go. So we did that, and then this week we're talking to people that may have underlying issues, diabetes, circulatory problems, different issues. It doesn't always necessarily look like they have bad feet, but if somebody is like not capable for some reason or another of not getting down even to cut their toenails, it sounds a bit like not too bad a problem. But if one nail cuts into the other and they have a cut and all of a sudden they have an infection, they don't want to go to the doctor, they don't want to end up in hospital. So that sort of the service is what we're providing now, just seeing people that have to be seen.
Yeah, and how are you going to actually work? Tell us about the new style of working for you now.
Well, yeah, this is different for me. Rebecca here, that's usually with us, she runs the show really. Now that she's not here, I can see that. She takes the appointments usually, but now I'm here on my own now, and we're just getting screens put up for Rebecca when she comes back to be away from the patients that they come in. So at the moment now, I have a list of names and numbers of people that are coming today, and I'll text one to come in, sit out in the car, come in when I call them, and when they're gone, then wipe down everything and then texting the next person. So we're busy, but we're not as busy as we would be with people walking in and out and people sitting in the waiting room area. So it's one in, one out.
And in terms of masks for yourself or gloves or for those that are coming in, how's that going to work, or what are you going to do?
Well, what we have is we have hand sanitizer and masks at the counter at the top, and the same down in the clinic down here. So, and we provide them for people. Are now, like, most people are ringing up and asking, a lot of people are sensitive enough to ring and saying, will I bring gloves? Will I bring my own mask? So if they don't have them, we'll meet them here. I have aprons on. We both have masks, and we're as far away from each other as we possibly can. I'm down the other end of the body, so, and the appointments are just the bare minimum what has to be done.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The very nature of the work, you're not a dentist, so you're operating and working at the other end of the human anatomy. So that makes it easier maybe in some respect, does it? It
makes it easier, and people that are coming in know what their problem is, and most of them, they're all regular people, so we know what to do when we're in and out, as convenient as well as giving as good a service as we possibly can under the restrictions and under the times that we have. But people in general know it. People are ringing up and saying, look, I think I have a bit of a cough, I won't come in. And other people are saying, they're frightened to go to their doctor. As we all know, I'm sure the doctors are not seeing as many migraine cases and other cases as they usually would be, so...
What's the most common complaint? Is it when people get a little bit older and they get a multitude of different things, or is there anything in particular?
Yeah, like as people get older, a lot of their skin gets thinner, so they can get cuts easier, and also, the feet may necessarily not be the problem themselves, but people, bad backs, bad eyesight, can't get down to cut their toenails, can't get down to rub some cream into their feet. So the work can be sometimes like, you could say, that's nothing, but if it's not attended to, it becomes a problem, especially if people have underlying conditions, bad circulation or bad feeling in their feet, so it's kind of staying on top of things before they get bad. We're trying to keep them out of waiting rooms and doctors' waiting rooms in hospitals.
Yeah, and then obviously if somebody does have a foot ailment, Paul, it can affect them in terms of they may not be able to sleep, so that affects their general well-being.
You'd see it with people who come in with something like little corns on their feet. They can feel like stones in their shoes, so people will walk sort of maybe limping with that because of it, and all of a sudden with that limp then there's pains in their knees and pains in their hips. So lots of people would look at ours and say, look, it's only a thing on your foot, but if it's not addressed, it can get worse and cause other problems.
Yeah, and one of the final questions, you do a fair bit of work, or have done over the years, for the HSE and nursing homes and things like that. Like, that's obviously completely stopped now, has it?
We've not gone into any nursing homes now. Then they've been on and wondering when, and when they do open, the list of people there would be crazy. But the HSE as well, I've done a clinic for the diabetic clinic, which is live leg ulcers, stuff like that, in the hospital in Clonmel now. But they're fairly essential people. Again, it's only a handful, and it's one in, one out. And finally, there's no open clinics as such.
Yeah. Finally, I know there'll be a waiting list probably to get to see you. You're only open 2 days this week, and what are you planning to do? Are you going to stagger the opening, or are you going to try and open maybe 5 days next week, or what's going to happen?
We'll see how it goes. Again, with everything, it's day by day. We're seeing how the phone goes, who's ringing, who's important. I'm just looking forward to having Rebecca back at some stage. She's much better at this than me. So she's going to be in for a shock when she comes back.
And if anybody can't get to you, is there any advice for any of the listeners that will be texting in about foot ailments and problems? They'll just have to, I suppose...
Yeah, they have to just, there is a few, and we're trying to put them off in the nicest possible way until they can be seen to. We're not been advised to call the houses or anything like that, so best we can do in these times, you know.
What's the worst ever foot complaint you've ever had to deal with?
We won't even get into that now this morning, Damien. There might be people having their breakfast. I'm not going to bring up these sort of things.
And
we'll wait that's for another day's conversation.
Paul Walsh, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Not at all, Damien. Many thanks.
Now, before we go to the news, I want to mention a couple of things. Is there anybody up around Glen Daligan Woods at present? I got a text from somebody the other day and wondering about the situation. Coillte are supposedly, this is the state body, they want to spread urea fertilisers in the forestry area next week. Now, we were sending off an email to Coillte to try and find out about this. This actually could be happening this week. And somebody is asking, are they going to spread this fertiliser potentially from a helicopter? The forestry is surrounded by dwellings, and this urea fertiliser, says this person, could blow everywhere. There are old sick people confined to their gardens, and is this going to be allowed to happen? And the helicopters to do this job fly no higher than 200 metres, and the noise can be deafening. All of us are expected to stay at home, and if there's a helicopter, it shouldn't be done at present, says this texter. It's not essential. In the last 15 years, it has never been done this way before. So if anybody's up there, please let us know. Get in touch and see what the story is. Mairead has texted in. As you know, Mairead is a wife of a soldier in the Lebanon, and she is still very concerned about what's happening in the Lebanon in terms of her husband coming home and that indecision, as we heard earlier from Nicola and from Cathal Berry. A number of other texts. Hello, WLR. Has anybody else having terrible time trying to contact 3, the company, to top up people who are cocooning? I'm on hold for the last hour and my friend is without the phone all weekend because I couldn't top the phone up for him. Anybody, any particular experience with 3 at present regarding that? I know there was some issues with Virgin Media last night and they have all been sorted from what I understand. Damien, could you let that doctor know I have some face visors if you could make use of them, please? We will certainly. We will put that text on. Good morning. It's great to see the guards out in force again to try to combat restrictive movements, but why are they not stopping taxis? I know they're doing some great work with patient transfers, but not everyone is a taxi and is a patient going to a hospital, and I believe that some are being used to get through checkpoints. Well, is that true? Let us know what you think. And we've had a text from somebody who's raising an issue which might be very controversial. Could you please bring up what are school teachers doing at home? He said, this person knows, I know some couples on my street and they haven't moved in 4 to 6 weeks. Are they all getting full pay? What are they doing during the day? Is teaching going on for longer than 1 hour, maybe 2 hours? And this person is questioning, what are teachers doing? Maybe it's a bad thing for me to be mentioning that because I'm going to get a lot of irate teachers text us in. Well, please do text me in 083 3333 975. We'll deal with all that and the Rose of Tralee.